Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone got a chance to make some tea, coffee. So we're going to continue. Somebody was asking how long this session is going to be for. Sister Wajma, keep me honest here, but I think we still have about an hour and a half scheduled.
Yes, so we have an hour for each presenter. We have two presenters, inshallah, two more
Okay.
hours. Yes.
Okay, perfect. My dear colleagues, will be now transitioning our segment and our training to the classroom management for middle school level students. As you guys know, these students are at that age where curiosity begins to challenge and expand. So we all know that with that comes some fair share of challenges on managing the classroom and keeping these young minds engaged. Um, our next speaker that I'd like to announce is a wealth of academic expertise and leadership experience that she brings to the table. I'm delighted to introduce Sister Tehreem Fatima. Sister Tehreem has an educational background, a heavy educational background in educational training and so forth. I think we're sharing her slide. But she joined the RISE Institute back in 2023 as the Director of Operations, and also serves as the middle school humanities teacher. In addition, she contributes her expertise to the Al Qissa Foundation curriculum development, which all of us, I think, that are on the line have been using to some extent, whether it's in our Sunday schools or our regular schools. So she's been contributing to that curriculum development, which we're very grateful for, helping design robust and engaging ELA and social study curriculum as well. So she brings with her over 11 years of experience as an educator, both in Canada and Pakistan. And her philosophy centers around forming genuine, supportive relationship with her students. She believes that the heart of teaching lies in helping students develop a lifelong love for learning, curiosity of knowledge, and confidence. And I really like that relationship building piece of it because, especially for our Sunday school teachers and our Islamic school teachers, a big part of being a teacher is also becoming a role model in the community for these children. So please join me in welcoming Sister Tehreem Fatima Rajani as she shares her reflections on creating meaningful connections and fostering engagement in the middle school environment. Thank you, Sister, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, volume's a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay, how about now? Is it better?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Thank you.
For some reason, I'm not able to share my screen. Okay, yeah. All right. Here we go. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for honoring me to be of assistance in any way I can. I was really honored by the lovely introduction, alhamdulillah, and I'm glad to be here. At any point during my presentation, if you guys have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat, raise up your hand. I believe in interactive teaching and learning. That includes when I'm training. So inshallah, even if you guys have a question or something that pops into your head, please feel free to put in the chat. Put your hands up. I'm going to try to make this as less of me talking as possible, but inshallah, obviously sharing my wisdom with you on the way. So I've named this presentation Teach from the Heart, and hopefully in this presentation you'll see why I've named it that is truly because as the sister that introduced me, she said that that's like my philosophy is my passion for teaching is there because I believe in forming relationships with students, and especially I think that goes for any age, but especially I feel as they get into now they're transitioning into that age where they're older, they're wiser in some ways. It's really important to build relationships in classrooms and build a familiarity between yourself and the students, and that's really the way that we can be a better teacher overall. So that's why I call it teaching from the heart, is because it's literally like you have your own children and you are teaching them. So, but before you teach them something, you have to build a relationship, a bond with them, and that comes first. And inshallah, hopefully, I wish to take the next 40 minutes or so for talking about that. And I'm going to try to like make it a little bit interactive, inshallah. Okay. So today, what are some things that we're going to talk about? I already gave you an overview, but just in a written format, we're going to hopefully find out how strengthening relationships with our students really helps promote learning. Because whenever we are teaching, we're more like, okay, how can we impart this lesson that we want to teach, right? We're normally focusing on how can we, teach our students this specific topic, right? But I want us to like flip it a little bit. Inshallah, and especially as middle school teachers, you'll see that if you flip that, and if you don't necessarily focus on the curriculum, because I know I'm a part of the curriculum team, so I know obviously that's important and that comes, but that's the second part. The first part is forming the relationships, and then the other part, that finishing your curriculum, it'll come. But the first part is building relationships, inshallah, and that's what's going to make you an effective teacher. We want to use positive reinforcement effectively. I'm going to give you hopefully some tips and tricks that I've used in my classrooms that have really helped me, and hopefully that you guys can use and just talk about it. MashaAllah, Sister Razvi already did a brilliant job, but inshallah, I'll just hopefully build up on the amazing knowledge that she gave us. And then we want to be able to support our students' social, emotional, and spiritual well-being, again, which is topmost as a teacher. And you'll see me saying this over and over again, inshallah, in different ways. Okay. So I wanted to do a Menti, but I know that we're like short on time, so I do want to still put this information up. Maybe you guys can put it on chat, raise your hands. I don't want to take too much time on this, but I do really want to talk about it. Maybe you can answer both the questions or one question. So the first question is, why did you become a teacher? So all of us that are here, we are either educators in the education field, we're a teacher, we're dealing with kids in some way, right? So number one, what's your reason? Okay, so either you can answer that question, or number two, think of your favorite teacher, okay, your favorite one, and what made them memorable. And I already have a hand up. I love it. Awesome. Sister Alicia.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Well, I wanted to become a teacher because I was deprived of this privilege to learn Deen. And now that I'm in a position that I can impart knowledge, I want to take this opportunity. And my favorite teacher was my English teacher. She was a wonderful teacher. I still remember the way she has imparted knowledge. She didn't teach us. She helped us, have a feeling, and, she ignited the feeling that, we should learn. So I think, that's a wonderful way of teaching, that if you ignite the feeling of learning, you don't have to teach. Kids learn. So I think, that motivated me. And yeah, I want to become a teacher like that. I remember her, and I will remember her until, I die. So, and I want the same from my students to remember me, as long as at least, I am alive, and maybe, when I leave this world, they should at least remember me that, this was a wonderful person we came across. And probably, I may inspire them to be like me. So yeah, that's my take.
MashaAllah, that's amazing, Sister Alicia. I think your teacher would probably be my mentor as well. Because absolutely, like the teachers, I think, and I'm getting quite a few messages about, why you're becoming a teacher, or what's making your teachers memorable. And generally, we see that pattern. And you can even think about it for yourself. The teachers that we remember are not necessarily the teachers that taught us the right, like like the best. Maybe they didn't teach us the curriculum, all of it, right? Like they didn't finish the book necessarily, but they were there, right? And they were our friends, or they were funny, or they built a relationship with us, or they wanted They made us want to learn, right? And at the end of the day, that's what counts. Whether we are teaching in a Sunday school, like most of us are here, or we're a full-time teacher, the most important thing that I feel is something that we as teachers should kind of make our motto, is to make students want to learn, okay? Because we are currently living in the age of artificial intelligence. So technically, in some ways, believe it or not, my students can actually pull off the same information, or even better, that I can probably give them from the internet, right? I can, by the time that they're 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, right, and older, they can look up these things. They can research these things on their own, whether it be like stories of the Imam or the Prophets, or even math or science, right? They can look them up. But what do we want to build in them is that interest to do that, is that love to do that. And that is really what our job is as a teacher in this day and age, inshallah. And I'm seeing so many great messages. I'm sorry if I don't read yours, but I'm just gonna read a few chats. So one of the teachers says, Sister Zahra says, I became a teacher because I wanted to play a role in the tarbiyah of Imam soldiers, inshallah. MashaAllah, that's such a great cause, and definitely that's something that, you know, is important to us and to our hearts. Sister Zahra says, I became a teacher because I wanted to be the kind of teacher my own kids would love to learn from. That's amazing. And then I have, I'm going through a lot of them. I became a teacher to make a difference in the lives of the students and form strong connections. Sister Atam Zahra says, and her favorite teacher was kind and supportive, and she had a great connection. Sister Wajma says she became a teacher because she's a mother, and it is part of her secret, what she believes is her sacred responsibility, mashallah. Sister Nafisa says, as a zakat of my knowledge. And number two, it was the favorite tertiary teacher was her second grade teacher, who was tough, but she showed me that she cared by taking time to consider my feelings, mashallah. And again, I'm sorry if I missed yours. I am getting a lot of the chats. I just also want to make sure that we, you know, go over the material, but feel free to read them. I'm going to read all of these once I'm done talking, inshallah, as well, because again, this is really important. And the reason why I started with this question is not random. And I know Miss Rasby also kind of started with a similar question. The reason why I personally started with this question is, why did we become a teacher? I want us to hold on to that why in every single class that we go to, whether it's in Sunday school, Islamic studies class, or whether it's your math class, right? Before the start of your class, before you're like getting ready to go and, you know, do this jihad with your kids, remember that why. Because it's not easy, right? I have actually a question here. One of the teachers is asking, like, the students starting to randomly laugh, you know, and they're just trying to misbehave. How do we deal with that? That's hard. And inshallah, I'll talk about that, sister. You know, how can we deal with things like that when they happen? But the first thing that we can do is, before we even go into that class, is remember, why are we here? Okay. When you recall that why, like, I know, like, when we talk about it, we kind of know, but we don't recall it every day, right? So I want us to recall it every time you go into a class. Think about, why did I want to do this? And that gives you a little bit of the inspiration, the confidence, and, you know, the positivity that you need to start your class and to, inshallah, deal with the things that we deal with every single day, because the amount of work that teachers put in is more than any other probably profession, alhamdulillah. Okay, so we're going past this. This is where we're going to discuss, but we're going to hopefully learn in, each slide, I'm going to cover different perspectives. The first perspective, and Sister Rasbi talked about this as well, and this is really important. And I think most of us do this really well as teachers because we're taught this. But even if we're not taught this, we're generally like focused on this, is leading the foundation, meaning making good lesson plans, right? When we go in, we should know what we are doing, what we are planning to do with the kids. And I remember Miss, again, Rasbi saying this as well, but students notice. They know when you're coming in and you're prepared versus you're not prepared. So students are very you know, like their observation skills are very good. So they will notice if you are like flustered, if your papers are everywhere, right? And they will latch on to whatever attitude you bring into the class. I truly believe it. It makes such a big difference. You go in and with a smile and positive and maintain that attitude, right? Talk louder, be confident. They will be the same. They will reflect it. Okay. But if you go there flustered, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm talking softly, I'm scared, students will reflect it and they will catch on. And unfortunately, as they're getting into middle school, they're getting into that age where they are, defying it. Defying you. So then they'll be like, oh, okay, like she doesn't know what she's doing. Let me just, so they're going to then add to that. So the first thing starts with how prepared you are in the class. And obviously, we as teachers feel confident when we have a plan. What am I going to do in this class? Now, if you're like a teacher like me, and I have like OCD with this, I guess, is I like plan to the T. But I also leave in room for conversations. So I will be like, okay, 10 minutes, we're going to talk. 5 minutes, we're going to do the opening activity, right? So leave time for the randomness to happen in your class, because it will, and it should, if you want to build relationships. But at the same time, have a plan for that. Plan it in your lesson plan, if that makes sense, okay? And why is this important is because when you have a clear direction of where you want to go, it actually reduces anxiety and it reduces misbehavior. If students know what to expect from the class every single day or every single week, like we come in, we have a set routine, like we have a 10-minute conversation time in which we are talking to the teacher. Put it up on the timer, put it up on the board. Visuals, so important, right? We think that once they're 10 years old, 11 years old, they don't need to see. But trust me, even as adults, if I put in on my board right now a timer and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to talk for 10 minutes, it would remind you to listen for 10 minutes. So even as adults, visuals are important. So obviously for kids, visuals are super important. So putting your expectations up in the class where students can see it at all times. If you're online, putting it up in digitally. If you are in physical classroom, putting it up on the board. Okay, like 3 o'clock to 3:10, we're going to have our talk time. 3:10 to 3:15, we're going to do an activity. 3:15 to 3:20, we're going to do reading, right? So whatever it is that you are doing, show it visually to the kids. What does that do? That's going to set expectations for them, because now they know that this is what is expected from me. When they don't know what you are expecting from them, that sometimes creates anxiety in them, or it creates uncertainty, and then that can sometimes lead to misbehavior, right? And my third point, it says being prepared, it basically allows us to focus on relationships and not just discipline. When we go into a classroom and we are like flustered, as I said, students will catch on to that, and then that will impact the way that they react in the classrooms. And, we're going to be like, oh my God, I'm not done completing my lesson. And it's been 15, 20 minutes and I only have 30 minutes to go. And my class is about to end and I haven't even started. And I'm going to get more flustered, right? Because I didn't plan. I did not plan that, okay, 10 minutes, I have to expect chaos. They're coming from somewhere, right? Remember, especially as Sunday school teachers, they're coming after 5 days of, already learning, and they kind of have like a chill attitude about Islamic school already, right? So when they're coming in, allow that time for chilling. Allow that 10 minutes where they're just talking about their week, talking about their class, right? That's where you're connecting with them. But then plan it into your lesson is what I'm saying, right? So have that 10-minute talk. Build that relationship and then get into your lesson. Don't rush into it. And that's going to really help you when you prepare for that chaos, because it will happen. When you have that time set a lot for that chaos, then you will be more prepared, and inshallah, you'll be able to focus on building that relationship. Okay, so next slide, we're going to talk about classroom management. And specifically, I want us to review classroom management in terms of building relationships, because that's, as I said, that's the focus of my, presentation today. And I want us all to think in our heads, you don't have to put it down, but I want us to think, what's one non-academic way that you connect with your students daily? Or every time you have that Sunday school class, every time you have that Quran class, every time you have that Islamic studies class, what was one way? Was there one way that you connected with your students which didn't have anything to do with the topic that you were teaching. Okay. Did you maybe talk to them about soccer or football or, basketball or whatever their interests were, or a really cool book that is up and, happening? Did you connect with them in some way that was non-academic? And I want us to assess ourselves, because I know as teachers, we're always assessing our students. But first, you have to assess yourself. So at the end of the day, or at the end of every class, you're thinking, how did I connect with my students? One way that I did that, non-academically. Okay, so remember, beginning of the class, we're going, what are we doing? We are remembering why we are there. And at the end of the day, what are we doing? We are thinking, what was one way that I connected with them that had nothing necessarily to do with education? And why that is important is because it makes us move past that necessarily academic way in which we're always seeing our students, right? Because this is the time and age where, yes, learning is important. And of course, we want to teach them the curriculum, but we first want to build that relationship with them. And as I said in the previous slides, if you build a relationship, the studies will come. Right? Sister Alicia, I think it was, like, she told us, like, the teacher that was her favorite, she taught her to learn, taught her to love how to learn, right? So we want to do that to our children. We want to do that to our students. We want to make them love learning. And one way to do that is not necessarily to always focus on learning, because it will come. But if you teach them to form relationships, form bonds, and things like that, then they will want to learn. They'll want to be in your class just because you're that teacher that connects with them and supports them, right? So one of the points that I've written here is students behave better when they feel respected and known. Now, this is something that I wanted to bring into, like as a point, like written down, is because it's so important. A lot of us are, older, mashallah, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, right? Where we have now, like, we were living in a very different age when we were students, right? At that point, for us, we respected our teachers just because, well, they're older and we have to respect them. We did not question authority the way that this generation questions authority. And Maulana mentioned this too, like this, we're teaching a different generation now, right? And there's a lot of hadiths that said even when we're raising children, we raise them according to their generation, not according to how we were raised. Okay, same thing goes for teaching. You want to teach them according to how their generation is, not according to how I was taught necessarily. Okay, I did not question my teacher the way that the students question me today. I knew that we had to respect teachers and there was no question about it. But today's generation, they will not necessarily, and unfortunately, as much as I hate to say this, but it's the truth, is that they will not necessarily respect you just because you're a teacher. Okay. Even though they should, 100%, right? Our hadith tells us that, but I want us to let go of that fact, or this like thing in our minds that just because I'm an authority figure, I expect them to respect me. Of course, you are right, but this generation, unfortunately, doesn't necessarily respect just because you are of an authority. So how can we tackle this? How can we make sure that we get that respect that we deserve? Is to respect them too. Because sometimes as adults, we think that we deserve respect just because we're an adult, but children also deserve respect. And Islam also tells us to respect everybody equally, right? So just like, nobody has the right to question me or, make me look bad or disrespect me, I do not have the right to disrespect a student or call them out in a way that would shame them. Okay, I want us to understand this because this isn't even in our deen. Like, I do not have that right to shame a student in front of everybody or to make them feel bad about themselves. That is something that we forget because, we are raised in a culture, we were raised in a time that this is how we were taught to believe, but it's changing now. And I want us to remember that we have to respect our children, our students as well. And when you respect them, when you give them that respect, right? When they see you're not going to shame them if they do something wrong necessarily. When you see that you're not going to when they see that you're not going to call them out for their misbehavior, and you have you take them to the side, or you respect them, you give them that benefit of doubt that you would expect from others for you. You will see them slowly and gradually building that bond with you. Okay. Now I know teachers talked. The teacher before me talked about this as well. The connection before correction is we want to, and this again leads to that point, is we want to connect with them first before we expect to correct them. Right. So think about this. If, for example, if you know that you are, for example, super talkative. Okay, I'm very talkative. So let's say I'm like a very talkative student. I know that's a flaw in me, right? Would I listen more to when my mom were to tell me, or my best friend were to tell me, hey, you talk too much, maybe you should talk a little bit less, right? Or would I listen to a complete stranger? Chances are you're probably going to listen more to somebody that you have a relationship with, right? And that's why, again, we're focusing so much on building relationships, because if you want them to listen to you, you have to have a bond with them. You have to have a relationship with them, okay? And that way they build their trust, and then they're more likely to listen. So if a teacher that just always comes in, does her curriculum, goes out the door, and then she expects that there's no misbehaving students, there's no bullying going on, there's no like everybody's being the best at their behavior just because I'm the teacher and you got to listen. Unfortunately, at this day and age, it's not going to happen. But if there's a teacher that's coming in, that's giving in their energy and their positivity, and they're respecting the students and they're building bonds, for them you will see less misbehavior. You will generally see less, students hesitating before they decide to bully a student. You will see students, be more proactive in their learning when they know that the teacher is somebody that they want to impress, that the teacher is somebody that they want the teacher to respect them. Okay. And then the last thing that I wrote is consistency and compassion leads to credibility. One thing we do amazingly as teachers is set rule in the beginning of the year, right? Like I think all the teachers, or most of the teachers, beginning of the year, let's set rules for the classroom. What are our expectations? Let's make them together. I think this is something that, inshallah, all of us do. And if not, definitely do it in your classes, right? Set rules together. But what we don't do as teachers is be consistent with them. So if day one, you've said that you need to be here 5 minutes early to the class, right? The one day that the student does not turn up early to the class, right away, we are asking them. Not like, oh no, I'll do it later. Oh no, I'm too busy. No. If you want that rule to stay and you want everybody to follow it, you have to be consistent in making sure that you are talking to the students about it and you're addressing right away. Okay, so even if that means that I'm compromising on like 15 minutes of my class time today, just talking about why this, just talking to the students separately about why they were late, that's fine. Because when I did that, now that's set an expectation, and that's me, being consistent with my routine and my behavior and my expectations of them. And that's why they're more likely to follow through next time and not be late or do any of those expectations that you don't have. But consistency with compassion, right? And those are the two things that are always going to increase your credibility as a teacher. And what is credibility is basically how much your students like you, or how much your students will listen to you. And essentially that's what we all want as teachers, right? So you want to be consistent with the rules that you set, okay? Even if that means, yes, I have to take time out, that's fine. It's worth it in the end, right? And then being consistent with that compassion, right? With showing compassion. You don't want to lose the compassion in the midst of the consistency. Okay, what are some common middle school challenges? We're gonna go through them. I think this is the slide I'm gonna talk the most, and then I'm gonna just try and see if I can get a few questions in if anybody wants to ask, just because I feel like I'm talking too much, but inshallah. So there are specific emotional needs for each age group, and I've tried to like divide it in the middle school range, so from 10 to 11, 12 to 13, and 13 to 14. So as students are 10 to 11, some common challenges that we see or that they have is they are very, very emotionally sensitive. Some might not even act like they're sensitive. They might act like they're very tough on the outside just to show that they're not sensitive, but they all are at this age. This is a biological change that is coming in them at this time. They are very, very emotional and very sensitive at this time to anything, and they give in easily to peer pressure. Okay, so these are often challenges that we see, like they'll act out, they will be sensitive, they will if they're misbehaving or they're bullying, it's most likely linked to the fact that they're emotionally vulnerable. And this was a fact that I think this is a fact that I actually learned back in school when I was learning psychology, is that this specific age group, the middle age group, the amount of hormonal and emotional changes that are occurring in them biologically right now is the same as that of a toddler. Okay, so think of a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, right? Or a 2-year-old, right? All of those emotional and biological, like, changes that are occurring in them, we expect them to be like, yeah, the toddler, the 3-year-old is going to throw a tantrum because their life is ending because I didn't give them sprinkles on their ice cream, right? That's okay. But when they're 10 years old, we're like, why are you taking this so seriously, right? You're 10 years old. No, but remember, they're still kids. This age group is, I think, the most misunderstood age group because we expect them to we treat them like we expect them to be bigger when they are still kids. Okay, and I want us to remember that when we are dealing with these, we want to be so understanding of the fact that they are going through the most emotional and hormonal changes that they will as an adult, or as a human being, sorry. So we want to be sensitive to that. We want to be cognizant of the fact that they're going through these changes, and we want to understand that they will be sensitive or more emotional, and that might lead to misbehavior. Okay, so once I understand that, then I might be more compassionate towards it when they do misbehave. Okay. What are some behavior strategies that I can use to overcome their super sensitivity and their like peer pressure is something that Ms. Rossi mentioned as well, greeting them at the door, having a special handshake. This still applies by the time that they're older because it makes them feel special, okay? It makes them connect with you for that 2 seconds at the door. If you are teaching online, then it's a moment where you're recognizing each and every, you're saying salam to each and every single student. I know it might take 10 minutes if you have 30 students, right? But trust me, you saying salam, Sister Homa, how are you? What are you doing? Like, just taking that 30-second at the beginning of the class to recognize them, that's going to build you up for your entire class that's upcoming. So you want to take that time, right? You want to praise effort anytime you see any kind of effort, right? Even if it's a little bit. Even if you see that misbehaving student do a little bit of right thing, you want to praise it like, wow, they did the best thing in the world, okay? And encourage group roles. So encourage working a lot in groups, arranging different kinds of roles that each student can do according to their own strengths. By the time that they become 12 and 13, so that's the middle of the middle age group, they are really getting to that age where they are testing authority. That comes with, whether it's being bullied, whether it's becoming, disrupting the classroom. They're really testing the authority by this time to see how the teacher responds, right? And they are also at this time creating their own social identity. So sometimes we as teachers, we don't realize by constantly pointing out in the class every time a misbehaving student misbehaves, every time we focus in on them, it further reinforces themselves that, yeah, I'm a troublemaker. I'm the kid that misbehaves, so I'm going to continue doing it, okay? So we ourselves indirectly are reinforcing this, and we want to be very, very cognizant of what we're doing at this age and how we are dealing with them at this age. one of the strategies that we can do is we can give choices. This goes for middle school as much as it does for elementary, is we want to give them choices, multiple choices. Whenever I give assessments to my students, for example, I will never be like, here's a test, everybody do it, that's it. Okay, no. Give them choices on how they would like to be tested, how they would like to be assessed. Okay, you can choose from doing a test, a project, or an activity. Okay, and I know that may be like a little bit extra work for you as a teacher, but what is that going to do is that's actually going to make them be more involved in the learning process. Okay, and essentially, remember, that's what we want to do. We want to make them love to learn. Okay, and then obviously also involve them in rule making consistently throughout the class. I think there was a question in one of the previous while the conversations was going on about what kind of activities, Salah activities we can have for that age range of 8 to 12 years old. And honestly, you know what I would do? I would say to the kids, hey, we're having a competition, create a fun activity to learn Salah. Give it to them. Let them think of the game, okay? And they will surprise you with their brilliance and their creativity. That's your work done, right? And at the same time, they're being engaged because that's what you want from them. So involve them in the process of learning. Tell them to think creatively and out of the box, okay? Inshallah. Then we have that last age group that I'm focusing on, which is 13 to 14. That's when they become a little bit more self-conscious. You'll see they have mood swings. They become quiet. That same kid at 10 years old that was talking all the time in your class, that same kid at 13 or 14 will all of a sudden be super quiet, and they will just not talk to you properly. They will have a monotonous tone. They will lose, their expressions, and you will be like, what happened to you, right? Remember, this is a biological change. This is like a change that is happening, and it's a challenge, and we just have to figure out how to deal with it, essentially. So first of all, remembering that it is a physical like change that is going on in their minds. Okay, one strategy to help is private corrections. And I think private corrections should go for anybody in this age group. Never ever correct a student, like even if they're if they're doing something, like if they're misbehaving, it's better to correct them privately. Yes, of course, recognize that behavior in a positive manner, but at the same time, correct it privately. You will notice the change better when it's private versus if you say it out loud, like, oh, do you know Hassan did not finish his homework today? Okay, we don't want to make everybody know that Hassan didn't finish his homework today. So private corrections, and then celebrate small wins. I'll just give like one quick story. I'm really cognizant of my time, inshallah. I'll give one small story because I think this is really important, and hopefully this story motivates you guys, of a personal student that I had when I was teaching. I believe it was grade 5 or 6, and this student was one of those students that you get that, the other teacher that had them previously, they warn you, hey, you're getting this student, he's a troublemaker, okay? Just FYI, just be careful, okay? So I got one of those, mashallah, students, and I was very scared. And then literally, like in our teacher circles, he was like, we always used to talk about the fact that he had one favorite phrase, which was, I don't want to. Right? So we would be like, okay, for example, student A, like I'll just name him A. So A, please take out your notebook. I don't want to. A, please go in the line. I don't want to. Right? So I had that student, that I don't want to student, okay, that said that to everything. And I was trying to figure out, how can I make the student want to? Okay, so one of the things that I personally did, that really helped me, was the things that he did do, because obviously he would do something. He would bring his backpack to school. I'd be like, wow, hey, you brought your backpack to school. I am so proud of you. And I would say this loudly like a crazy person. And like everybody would hear it and they would smile and they would be like, okay, what's wrong with Miss Tehreem? But I would be so genuinely happy that he brought his backpack. Okay, or I would be so happy that he decided to sit down on his seat. Every time he did something that he was supposed to do, I would make a big deal out of it. Okay, like I would like, focus in on him and remind him that he's doing what he's supposed to do, because he is doing it, rather than focusing on the not doing it, focusing on the things that he is doing. Okay. And I did that for, I think, about maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before and then all of a sudden I start seeing like changes in him. I start seeing every time I ask him, hey, take out your notebook, he's actually taking it out. Wow. Okay. So, and by the end of the year, when we were saying our goodbyes, he was actually one of the most well-behaved, well, if not well-behaved, one of the best students that I had, that was doing their homework, that were getting straight A's, that were just generally extremely good students. And nobody would believe that that was the same student that came in with that really that attitude of not wanting to do it. And the only thing that I did, remember, was change my language to focusing on what he did do versus what. Okay. I'll speak on this, and then I promise I will wrap up for Q&As that you guys may have for me. I want us to look at the social and emotional well-being in 3 different ways, okay? The first is their emotional awareness. Remember, as I've been talking in the past few slides, middle schoolers, they are going through some big emotions, okay? They are naturally going through these changes. This is happening in their brain. It's not, sometimes, actually most of the time, it's not done like on purpose. They naturally don't know how to control their emotions. And they actually lack those mature coping skills. Okay, so how can we, what's our strategy? How can we, interact with these students that are feeling big emotions, but they don't know how to cope with these emotions? One of the things that we can do as teachers is we can be calm. So if a student is screaming, just like when my 3-year-old is screaming at me, if I scream, it will just increase, and then it will just turn into mess. So the same way, if a student is being impatient, if a student is screaming, you want to be calm. You want to mirror what you want from them, because they will take that on, okay? So mirror the calmness, be patient, right? And you want to show your empathy, like you actually understand where they're at by your tone. Okay, because they will sense if you are talking to them like strictly versus very nicely. Okay, if you lower down your tone like this and you talk to them in a very nice and calm manner, it will be very different than if you're talking to them loudly and with this not patient voice. Okay, so we want to mirror how we want them to act. So we want to be calm, we want to be patient, and we want to obviously be consistent with our rules at that time. So for example, if Ahmad keeps, laughing in the middle of the classroom, then we want to, address it calmly, maybe laugh and be like, hey, what's the joke? And then slowly and gradually, be calm and be like, okay, how about we give 5 minutes at the end of the day for Ahmad to give us jokes, and he can come in the front of the class and he can give us jokes, and we can all laugh, because I would love to laugh right now. Okay, so that's how you kind of redirect their behavior. Another simple strategy is to start your day with a temperature check, right? How are you feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down. And I know that this sounds a little like kiddie, but trust me, once you have that relationship with them, it actually works. They'll be like, I'm not feeling very good. Okay, and then okay, Ahmad is not having such a good day. Maybe I can address it later in one of my conversations in the classroom. One way is, then we're going to go on to the next box, social connections. Students need belonging more than approval. They need to feel like they belong in that classroom more than necessarily your approval. Okay, they're at that age where they're going to do all those silly things because they want to belong. They want to be cool. They want to be a part of the class rather than necessarily impress you. Okay, so how can we shift this into our good is we can make sure that those people that are doing good in class are all are all belonging to our class. Okay, so not necessarily we want to focus in on everybody belongs rather than just if they're not being good, then they don't belong, and then then they kind of turn into their own group. Okay, we want to build peer-to-peer respect through collaborative learning, not competition. I think at this age, we really focus a lot on competition, and we want to not do that. We want to build collaborative learning, make groups not compete necessarily within each other, but compete for a cause together. Practice something like a chill time, right? As I said, 10 minutes at the beginning of the class. Students share one success. Then how do we get them spiritually grounded? The last slide, the last thing over there is we want to encourage Islamic values while teaching. Like we're doing this for the sake of Allah. Hey, it's the month of Rajab. Do you know any good act that you do this month? You're gonna get it. You're gonna get the thawab for it times 20. Did you know that? So hey, you listened to me today, Ahmad. You listened to me today, you're going to get the thawab of listening to me times 20. That's awesome. Let me write that on the board, okay? And trust me, you think that this works for elementary, but it works for that 12-year-old, okay? It works brilliant. You'll see them smile. Then we want to use examples and stories from the Quran and Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, right? I talked so many times about peer pressure that our prophets went through, right? Because they went through that. So when I see them struggling with things like that in the classroom, we talk about it like, hey, our imams went through peer pressure, or our prophets went through this. And we want to, encourage this kind of conversations in the class by getting them to look it up as well. Okay, and then some practical examples are like having a character of the week. Okay, this week we're going to talk about Prophet Musa. Okay, and then all the things are surrounding that character and all the things that he did. Or having like reflection moments at the end of the class, reflecting, or having a gratitude jar. Inshallah, there's so much that I wanted to talk about, but I also see the time, so I'm just going to do this last slide because I think it's really, really important, which is creating that positive environment. And we talked about this, but I want to talk about the strategies on the left-hand side of some positive behavior systems. And this works, okay? This works whether it's for elementary, whether it's for adults, because I've tried it with adults too, okay? Is just points, some kind of a reward system where, they're earning something, and it doesn't have to be necessarily they're getting like a monetary reward. It could be like, okay, after like, a certain amount of, points or stars or whatever, you get to sit on the table instead of the chair if you want. Okay, I know that's weird, but kids are like, wow, that's so cool. So, get them to choose their rewards as well. I know that sounds weird, but like they will come up with the weirdest rewards and they'll be very happy with it. Like one of in my grade 6 classes, we used to collect points, and they had this reward where they're like, Miss Tehreem, we don't want to wear shoes in the class. I don't know what's the reward of not wearing shoes in the class. I was like, okay, as long as your feet aren't stinky, sure, I'll put that on the rewards chart. And they would go crazy to get enough points to not wear shoes in the class. Okay, as long as it's safe, we want to encourage these rewards that are not necessarily monetary, like a pencil or a candy or things like that. Get them to think about it. We want to encourage peer recognition. Shout out boards are so important. When somebody does something good, write it down on the notebook, okay, on the board. We often, and I know Miss Razvi mentioned this as well, you want to send a good note home. Ahmed he brought his backpack today. Ahmed, I'm so proud of him. I'm going to write a note to your parents telling them that you brought your backpack, mashallah. So that's like making a big deal out of the good things that they do. So you want to remember, correcting we're doing privately, but any praising we are doing publicly. We are just being very, very, conscious of how much we're praising. And the last thing I want to say is the 1:3 rule, which has worked for me amazingly. Inshallah, it will work for you guys if you try it. Is the 1:3 rule. The second last one that I've put up there is for every negative interaction, have 3 positive interactions. So every time you told Ahmad stop talking, okay, now you're going to say 3 things. Now you're going to praise him 3 ways. Okay, you told him to stop talking. Now you're going to find 3 ways to praise him. This will help you build that bond so much because, it just increases the positive versus the negative. And then I'm just going to go through my last is, again, class rewards, our growth mindsets, right? We want to make sure that we are constantly doing this and constantly verbally praising them. So you're showing great effort, all of that, inshallah. So just to recap, we're going to start with our lesson planning. We're going to go in confident. inshallah, that's going to lead us to effective classroom management. We're going to make sure that we're engaging our kids positively. We're making sure that we're taking care of their emotional health. That creates that positive environment classroom. And then essentially, that's going to lead to your relationship-based discipline, because now you've built that credibility. Now your students do want to listen to you because you're that funny teacher that lets them not wear shoes in the class, okay? And they will naturally want to learn. So stop focusing necessarily on finishing that curriculum book that you have, and start focusing on relationships, because students won't remember every lesson, but they will remember how you made them feel. Okay, and that's what we want to do for our students, inshallah. I will end, inshallah, with a little bit of time, hopefully, for questions, and give it over to Sister Huma as well.
Yes, we do have 10 minutes for questions. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Sister Tehreem. That was really, really insightful. And yes, so we're a little over time, but I mean, all the knowledge that you shared, the wisdom was so important and interesting that I didn't want to interrupt you. But let's have 10 minutes for questions. So if you guys have questions, please post them in the chat or raise your hand, and Sister Wajma will navigate through that. Any questions for Sister Tehreem or overall? How to deal with special needs students?
Okay, special needs. I feel like we all need a special training for the special needs student. I am not a special needs teacher, but from my experience, because I have do have a psychology background and some kind of training in counseling, I would say that if you do have a special needs student in your classroom, the first thing that you want to do is search up on the special needs that they have and build your own self, like get your own self ready for the special whatever need that they have, and make sure that they are in that environment where they understand that you are there for them. Okay, because and lower down, obviously we know, lower down our expectations for them, but at the same time make them feel involved. Okay, that is something that I will say right off the bat. Apart from that, inshallah, because I'm not a special needs trainer, I can't go too much into it, and this does require a separate training. So inshallah, hopefully
inshallah, we will also have a feedback survey at the end of our session today. So please feel free to add in your suggestions. What else would you like us to create in terms of training? We will be happy to serve you, inshallah. We need your feedback and your suggestions on our survey at the end of this session.
Sister Tehreem, if I may, I wanted to add to that. So the special needs students, we have to be mindful that not all our teachers are trained to deal with special needs students, like Sister Tehreem mentioned. So sometimes it may help to also talk to the parents and ask them what strategies work or have worked for them. A lot of them are working with therapists, so they have certain strategies in mind that can help us, and we can partner with them. But hopefully, Sister Wajma, this might be a topic for the future for us to come back to, because I can see that and the bullying piece being something for future sessions as well, inshallah.
I have a question here saying, how do we get this age group to pay attention, stop being fidgety, stop rocking, stop chewing gum? The first thing that I will tell you is and I'm sorry, I also don't want to say it in a certain way, is stop focusing on it, because they need that. So for example, if you have a kid that's like rocking, okay, maybe have a private chat with Ahmed on, and I'm sorry, I don't have a student named Ahmed, that's why I picked that name, but maybe have a chat with Ahmed on why he likes to do this. Maybe this is the way that he can actually focus in class better, okay? Or maybe he's rocking because he's bored. Okay, so that's one thing that we want to focus on. Okay, another thing is a strategy that has worked is this worked for a classroom that talks a lot. So I don't know if this can be dealt with in the same way if they're like not paying attention. I guess maybe you could, is something I call blurt cubes. And all it was, and you can do this very easily if it's not online, so especially since most of us are in physical classrooms, this is great. So what I did was just get those like little cubes, or you can even just do it on a paper and stick it on their desk, right? And it just says blurt, B-L-U-R-T, okay? So every time a student blurts, meaning talks out loud, doesn't raise their hand, doesn't pay attention, whatever, just don't, no need to say anything, no need to like, talk to them, say it out loud. Set that expectation when you and then just like take the B away. And then the next time to do it, take the L away. And then take the U away. Okay? There's no necessarily, you can if you want to, maybe at the end of the day, if all the students have all their blurts, maybe give them a reward or just a praise, or if something like that. But you don't necessarily even have to give a reward for it, because again, they're seeing it, right? They're seeing that you're noticing that they're misbehaving and you're taking something away, which is not something that will impact them necessarily, but it gives them that visual cue. Okay, if you're not focusing, you need to focus. Okay, and explain to them why the blurt is there, obviously. But that's one way that might work for those kids that don't pay attention.
Very interesting.
And then Sister Zahra says students at this age, they need to keep moving. And yes, we need to adjust learning to include more movement, 100%. Sister Rosby shared that slide, so I didn't, about the attention spans of these kids. And I think she was being very gracious when she said 20 to 40 minutes for 11, 12 years old, because honestly, I feel like it's more 10, 15 because of the amount of TV and online, mashallah, time that they have now. So after 10, 15 minutes, get up, or after 10, 15 minutes, chat with the class, right? Some kind of an activity, something like that, inshallah. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, we will be continuing on to the high school class management after this segment.
Okay, I have another question. What are some effective ways to motivate older students to attend class regularly? That was what I was trying to say about being that teacher that they actually want to come to the class of, right? So it starts with you, and that starts with remembering your why, right? It starts with remembering your why, and then personally, and then doing all of those relationship connections in between. Inshallah, hopefully, I don't know if we will be sharing slides, but I know we will be sharing the recordings. Using those different methods that I suggested for just connecting with your students, building relationships with them. You will motivate them to want to come to class, because you want to motivate that love for learning at the end of the day.
We will be
Okay,
sharing the slides, Sister Tehreem, with your permission, inshallah, along with the recording. So.
Okay, inshallah. So we have a Sister Mariam saying, thank you. I just wanted to ask that brother about the bullying going on in the classroom. If the age group is younger years, then modeling positiveness might work. But if an older age group, it could be something going with them emotionally and they can't process it. So the only way is using negative backlash to another to protect their own. There's a saying, if bullying is because the person is also being bullied. So I think she's trying to say that if they're being bullied, it could be like you have to kind of look into the reason of why they're bullying. They might be being bullied at home, right? So you want to connect with them emotionally, which is positive too, right? So I always think positive in any year, it always works. So we do, of course, want to stay positive, but yes, we want to understand that if they're bullying, that there definitely is some other reason of why that's going on.
All right, that remains 2 more minutes, inshallah, before we bring on our next session. So if you do still have questions, please do join our global WhatsApp group. We are at your service 24/7. We share resources, announcements there, teaching tips. Teachers support each other in that group. You are welcome to be a part of our global network. The link for the WhatsApp group is in the chat. I will repost it again in a few minutes. But if there are no more questions, Sister Homa, we are ready to bring on the last session for the day.
Yeah, and before we do proceed, I just want to say that at Wali Al-Asr Academy, the Sunday school that I help run in Southern California, in the past, we didn't do it last year, but in the past we had done anti-bullying awareness campaign over a span of 2 weeks. And just to share something, and maybe Sister Wajma, this is something you guys can come back on as well, where we shared first, creating that awareness of what it is, why it's wrong, how our prophets and imams had been bullied, and what are some coping strategies and so forth. We did role playing, it was really interesting the way we got the kids engaged. And then when we went through all of that, at the end, we brought one of our Shia brothers and sisters that were actually self-defense instructors. And of course, we taught them that we have to deal with bullying in a non-physical way, right? So we went through all those strategies and everything. And then as a last resort, if God forbid you're being physically bullied, how to be able to self-defense. And so we gave them strategies and had the kids participate, and they absolutely loved it. So maybe that's something to consider in your schools as well. I'm just throwing it out there, but it was a very successful campaign. We did it over a few years. And the kids loved it. But you just have to really drive the message home that the self-defense piece is really just self-defense, and not the first instinct is not to get physical. All right, so thank you, Sister Tehreem, for enriching us with those insights, and especially for highlighting the importance of building a strong connection with the middle school students, building that trust and motivation with the middle school environment, especially in the times that we're living in, where we're living in a fast-paced society, social media era, instant gratification. All the challenges that these students are facing are already challenging in themselves. So during these times, it's becoming even more important for us teachers to understand the different emotions that they're going through, the pressure, social pressure that they're going through, and help, understand those emotions, socially ground them, and build the connections and the strong relationships that Sister Tehreem discussed with us. And it is this relationship building that will bring the engagement and the motivation and the successful learning that we're looking for with the middle school children, inshallah. So thank you for enlightening us with your tools and strategies to help manage the middle school age group, Sister Tehreem.